Welcome to New at Knox, a Taste of the Library Advent Edition. I have a different kind of collection of resources for you today for perhaps a different dimension of the Advent season. For so many people, Christmas and the time leading up to it is a very painful time. Maybe a loved one has died, maybe a relationship has fallen apart, or maybe the contrast between the expectation of joy and merriment and then the actual lived experience of loneliness or anxiety is just too great. Acknowledging that pain through word and symbol and ritual has become an important part of this season in a lot of churches. Whether you call it Blue Christmas or Longest Night, we've got books in our collection to help you name the grief and sit with the shadows. Now, there are lots of Longest Night and Blue Christmas services online. You can Google them and kind of see what other churches are offering. Sometimes they'll post their services and you can select bits and pieces. We've put together a little binder here, just some selected worship resources, sample services, but they've been printed off from online, so you can certainly do the same. I've already mentioned this book of liturgical resources by Ruth Burgess. It's called Winter, but it's got a whole chapter in it just called Blue Christmas. And it's got prayers and music and readings and some rituals involving candles. And anyway, good options for planning a Longest Night service here. Sometimes, though, you don't necessarily need an outline for worship. You just need a book that helps you put grief into words. And brand new this year is You Won't Always Be This Sad, a book of moments by Sheree Fitch, and it's published by Nimbus. Now, if the name Sheree Fitch immediately rings a bell, it's because Sheree is a versatile and very well-known and well-loved Nova Scotia author, best known for her rollicking rhyming books for children, especially Mabel Merple, but she writes for all ages. And this book here, I think it's fair to say, is one that she never intended to write and probably wished that she didn't have to write. It's a very personal book that she wrote after the unexpected death of her son, Dustin. You can tell even by how it's laid out that it's kind of a collection of fragments. There's poems, prayers, although in some cases I don't know how to tell the difference between those. A little bit of art in here as well. All of it poured out in the wake of this terrible loss. So, as I've said, this is by no means a guide for worship planning, but it offers a really rare opportunity to sit with a poet, somebody who works with words as their vocation, to sit with her in her grief and listen to her express her anger and her sorrow and her hope. So if you're a worship leader during this season, there might be something in here that helps you connect with the people around you. What else was I going to say? If you're looking for something from a specifically Christian perspective, you might want to consider Learning to Walk in the Dark, by Barbara Brown Taylor. Unfortunately, the very lovely dust jacket is gone. This book's been around for a while. It was published in 2015 by HarperCollins. If you haven't had an opportunity to read it yet, it's beautifully written, and it's a thought-provoking study, especially during Advent, when all of or so much of our language and our symbolism celebrates God as light. And this, of course, has the perhaps unintended consequence of suggesting that God is not present in the darkness or that darkness itself is evil or dangerous. So this book delves into the spiritual gifts of darkness and offers an interesting corrective to what can sometimes become a very triumphant celebration of light. So it's an interesting and a thought-provoking read, especially at this time of year. As always, you can find both of those books at the library. And next time on the same topic, I'll have some children's books.